this episode of Grief in Common, we mention road accidents, heart attacks, and death throughout. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Winston's Wish Grief in Common podcast. My name's Ghislaine. You might recognise me from season 1, where I spoke a bit more about my experience with grief. But for those of you who haven't seen it, I was bereaved when I was a week old. My dad was in a car accident. But if you want to learn more about that, please go watch season 1. I'm joined today by Elizabeth. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hello. So I'm Elizabeth. My dad passed away when I was 2.5. He had a heart attack on his way back from work. So
thank you for sharing your story. I appreciate it. It's not easy, but it's interesting actually that you lost your dad quite young as well, because I think it's something that for me personally, I don't know if you feel the same, but growing up, I never really knew anyone that couldn't remember their dad. I don't know if, well, firstly, can you remember your dad? Do you have any memories?
There's a few. There's a little bit there. And obviously we've got like a memory box where we've got things from that brief period of time. That some like pictures, which obviously the pictures have brought back the brief memories I had with him.
Yeah. I think that's a really lovely thing to do though. My family, my aunt and my mum, when my dad died, they pulled together a picture book for me so that I have a proper photo album that shows my dad from when he was younger to when he then had me and then passed away. So I think it's really nice to have a keepsake and try and keep the memories alive. But I don't know about you when you were growing up, but because I couldn't remember him, or I guess in your case, you couldn't remember much about him, I found it really difficult seeing other people that had both parents. Is that something that you also experienced?
Yeah, it's because obviously you go through like nursery, primary school, and everyone's like, oh, my dad's this, my dad's that. Everyone sat there like, oh, I've been away with my entire family. We went on like a little weekend away with my mum and dad, and I'm like, yeah, I didn't.
It's funny, isn't it? When you're younger, I think your parents and what they do as a job and things like that, they tend to come up in conversation quite a lot when you're in the playground, just sort of general talk. My mum has since told me, since I've grown up, that she always used to find it really hard picking me up from school because she could tell that I was sort of looking at my friends or the other kids in the playground who had their dads, or, you know, if it was Father's Day and they did a special assembly and I had no one to give the present to or things like that. I think it was quite tough.
Along the lines of like Father's Day, it was always, we're going to make a card, we're going to make a present. I'm like, well, what do I do? So I'm just sat there like, so they had to adapt it and be like, so we're going to make a card or a present for the father figure. And it's like, that's my mum. My mum and dad in one.
Did you ever sort of go into a period of doubt that it ever happened, or sort of denial, I guess is the word?
Even now, it's I still think, why did it happen to me? Why was it me that had to lose my dad so young? And everyone will sit there and be like, well, everything happens for a reason. And it's like, is that really a case of everything happens for a reason? I don't know if you ever felt like that as well.
Yeah, I've definitely had that a lot where people, bless them, you can tell they're trying to be reassuring and they're trying to help. But in saying everything happens for a reason, it doesn't really give you much back to actually reassure you. It just kind of makes you think, okay, I get that, but then how comes they got this really nice life with both parents and siblings and a dog and a nice house? I think that's something that people often said to me as well. They'd say, oh, you don't seem like you've lost your dad. You don't act like you don't have both parents. And it's like, but what does that mean? You know?
You've got people that have 2 incomes in the house. Because obviously mum's a teaching assistant. So it's like, you're missing out on the second income. And then people are like, I've done this, I've done that. And I'm sat there like, you've also got 2 incomes in the house.
Yeah, it's really funny you say that actually because my mum was a teaching assistant as well. So we've got a lot of similarities there. She did her training and now she's a full teacher. But growing up she was a TA as well. People would always say to me, "Oh, but you're an only child, so you must be spoiled. You must get loads of presents." And I'd be like, "Well, I get presents because my mum sacrifices things for herself."
I know. And it's like, so I've got a brother as well. I think I used to get jealous of my brother quite a lot because he had more time with my dad because we're 6 years, 6 year age gap. So he had a lot of time with my dad and obviously they were quite close. We're not as bad with each other anymore. Like we've come to terms and that wasn't nobody's fault. It just happened.
That must be quite tough when it's like you're both grieving at the same time, but you have different memories and different experiences. So I don't have any siblings, but for me, I could still get it to an extent with my mum, say, and my aunt, because they had memories with my dad that I don't have. And obviously, it's a completely different relationship being a wife or being a sister. But when they tell you stories. On one hand, it's really nice because it's like you're getting to know the person for the first time or properly for the first time. Whereas on the other hand, you're sat there thinking, oh, why didn't I get to play badminton with him at Centre Parks? Or why didn't I get to do this and that? And that can still be quite hard.
Yeah, it's like my brother, because obviously he's got 6 years worth more of memories than me. But now we're starting to talk a bit more. It's like, oh, me, mum and dad did this. We went away. I'm like, I went away twice with him, a couple of times. I never got to experience playing as a child with my dad on the beach. Yeah, I got to do it as a toddler, not really communicating or walking. I never got to experience it when my brain's processed and developed. So we've got completely different sides of it, me and my brother.
Sometimes it really is just the little things that you really miss, like you say, coming home from school to both of your parents or to your dad, or making him a tea in the morning or something like that. When you hear stories of your friends doing it, sometimes it is really hard. I think for me personally, I have a really vivid memory. I don't know if I've shared it before. I was a bit older. It was 2012, so I was 14, and I went away with my friend and her family, and my mum came as well because our parents' friends. And then her dad couldn't join for the first half of the trip. So he turned up late one night when we were sat in this pub. And I remember I have this such a vivid memory of him walking in and her brothers jumping up and running over and saying, "Daddy, Daddy," and sort of jumping on him, and he lifted them up and swung them round. And I remember being so upset. I was like, it's so sweet. It's so nice that you have that relationship. And I wouldn't ever judge you for having it, but inside I was really jealous and I was like, this is horrible, I felt really silly at the time. And in some ways I still do, but I think sometimes when you see it in front of you, it can be really difficult.
Yeah, it's the same with me, really. It's because one of my best friends, her and her dad are very close. Like, she's very much a daddy's girl. We were out a few weeks ago. Like, we bumped into her dad because he was on his way back from work. He was like being all sweet with her and everything. And I was stood there, I was like, this is what it's like to have dad around and be really close. Because that's what I wished it would have been like with me and my dad. But obviously, never got the chance to experience that.
It's weird, isn't it? Like I say, sometimes it is just the smallest things. Like,
Yeah.
from an outsider's perspective, they probably wouldn't think that that would hurt you. Yeah, it is a strange one, jealousy. Do you think that you yourself are quite a naturally jealous person, or do you think it's more tied to your grief?
I found that, because obviously 15, it's been about 15 years since my dad died, to turn 18 this year. it's got a lot worse. As it's coming up to my 18th, it's like I'm seeing everyone post on like Instagram pictures with the dad, and on Facebook they're getting tagged in like happy 18th posted by like the dad and everything. And I'm like, great, thanks. It's kind of rubbing it in that he's not here. I know people shouldn't get jealous over little things, but on a day-to-day basis, it because of how I've grown up in the circumstance I've grown up with, I think that's followed along and made me quite a jealous person.
I manage it fairly well, but when it comes to specific things, sometimes I get stuck in that kind of, I think it's called rumination cycle, where I think, oh, but what if I hadn't done that? Yeah, jealousy is an interesting one, I think.
Yeah, it's like going back on what you were saying about the what if situations. I sometimes sit there and I'm like, what if my dad didn't go to work that day? What if he got the train? He never would have got the train because he hated public transport. But it's what if he did? I've got into the habit now of making jokes about it because I've got the thing of if I laugh, I won't cry. But if I don't laugh, I will bawl my eyes out over it. So it's everybody knows that if it's around his birthday, anniversary, or any like Christmas, or even my birthday, the jokes will start making an appearance a bit more.
It's funny, isn't it? I'm exactly the same as you, where I like making jokes, and I also quite like seeing people's faces. Sometimes it makes me feel really bad if you could tell that they're just not on it. I love it when people then make those jokes back to me as well, because to me that's a sign that they're close with me in probably a quite messed up way. It means that they like me if they're able to, make fun of me and make those jokes. I think I've also always used them in a way to cope with the jealousy as well. I can remember saying things when people have been talking about their dads, and I'll just be like, oh yeah, mine does that too, or something, it's like that's my way of being like, all right, you don't need to go on about it, but also making light of the situation as well. Do you like it when people firstly joke about you, or is that something that you don't really like?
Yeah, so there's a few people that I let do it with me because it's like my close friend. It's like my close friend at college. We will make the jokes back and forward, but it was then like secondary. It was people like talking about the dad doing this. Oh, my dad's done this. My dad's done that. Yeah, mine did that this weekend as well. Did a very nice weekend. Thanks for asking. I'll say stuff like that, but then it's the fact. It's like I like seeing other people's faces as well. If it's someone's first time that they'll come round to my house, or I've met them a few times, and I'm like, do you want to see my dad? And I've got his ashes at home, and I'll go, here's my dad. And they're like, that's a bit far, Elizabeth. And I'm like, no, it's funny. He said you wanted to meet my dad, so here he is.
I find things like that really funny. I think we must just have a similar sense of humor, because I always like saying things like that as well. Like, if we go to like a gathering, and I'll be like, "Oh, sorry, I couldn't bring my dad, but here's this or here's that," and it always it either makes people laugh or makes people uncomfortable. Generally speaking, if I'm close with them, they tend to find it funny, or they pretend they do anyway. Whether they actually do or not, I don't know. Do you find then that there's certain situations where it makes you feel more jealous? Like, say, if you're in college or in like a social setting, or is it just sometimes you get random thoughts?
I think it's more like random waves just come out. Like I'll be in a conversation, it'll just be like, I'm jealous about that, and I don't know why. There's no reason behind why I am. I think it's linked to the grief, but I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I get that too. I think in school I was generally okay. I think it was just every now and then, if there was maybe it was also when it was closer to the anniversary and things like that. But if people be talking about, oh, my dad's so annoying when he does this, and inside you're like, I get why you're annoyed, and I probably would be too, but equally, I wish that I had a dad to make me feel annoyed in that way. It's like minor things.
Yeah, it's like when I was in school, because I was at a Catholic school, we had to do, it was mandatory to do RE at GCSE, and there's a life and death topic, but the school chaplain decided to take me out of it completely because I was deemed unfit to sit that topic. So I'd have to go down to her office every RE lesson when we're doing that, and I'd have to sit and do like English work. But then as GCSEs came round and I was sitting all my papers, they still made me sit the paper. So I was took out for all of the lessons, but I was put in for the paper. So it was on about death, as it should be, so the topic. So I was just waffling about what death means and how people cope with death. But we're probably not going to get any marks for it, but it's not my fault. I was getting jealous of people that could actually sit the lessons and then sit the paper and do well on it. I actually want to be involved in this topic because I feel like I could bring quite a lot of experience and knowledge to this topic.
It's frustrating, isn't it, when people just assume it's like they could have just asked you in a simple 2-minute conversation, are you happy to be here? You would have said yes, and then it would have been fine. Especially making you sit the exam as well, that's really mean. Did you find then that your school were actually quite, well, not good because they shouldn't have done that, but good at least passing on the information that you were bereaved when you were younger?
I think there was a few teachers aware. My history teacher was aware, but there was quite a bit of controversy with me and my history teacher about my dad. It was coming up to his anniversary. I think his anniversary was the next day, and I just needed 5 minutes out of the classroom just to compose myself, bring myself back. He came out and was like, "You don't bring personal issues into school." So I then got very worked up, got very angry, ended up having a bit of an argument and walking off. We had a few debates like that in the course of the 5 years, but he knew about it. And then towards year 11, we'd laugh about it.
That's so frustrating. Can't believe you said that to you actually, because it's like you can't, even as a teacher, you know that you can't just turn off any emotions that you've had. If he's had a bad day at home, he's gonna be feeling it in school as well. That must have been frustrating. Yeah, for me, I mean, primary school was good, but my mum also works in my primary school, so maybe that is why. But she said that there was a file that sort of went up through all the years that had personal details like that on it, which is then meant to be sent to the secondary school. And when I got to secondary school, as far as I'm aware, no teachers really knew about it unless they were sort of on the board that did the starting interviews and stuff like that. As I remember my form tutor in year 9 asking me something and I had to say, oh no, my dad's dead. And same with some other teachers as well, like none of them were aware. And I may have shared this before as well, but our school did a thing every year 12, I think it was, where they would take you out to the fire brigade who did a speech on car safety, and you watched some really graphic videos on car accidents. And I had to go and say to the head of Key Stage that I didn't feel I could go. And she was very sort of standoffish, I guess you could say, saying, why do you feel you get to skip it when everyone else is going? And I'd say, well, my dad died in a car accident. And immediately she was like, oh, I'm so sorry, like couldn't look me in the eye kind of thing. So yeah, my school, they weren't the best. Benefit of the doubt, maybe they would have been if they knew, but I don't think they were really.
One of my mum's friends, her son was in my class, and his dad died as well in year 5. We're helping each other, really. And then it was like a little group on a Friday afternoon we'd have, And we'd all go to like one of the head of year's office or the head, and we'd have like a little group and we'd work through the money for those things. I think going back to secondary, I think they knew about it because my brother also went to secondary, so that was passed up, whereas it wouldn't have been anything like that for you.
No, I literally had no one that I could have gotten support from, or at least that I know of. I'm sure, like I say, maybe if I'd have actually pushed myself to go and talk to someone, then there would have been someone there. But yeah, not that I'm aware of anyway. Well, thank you for talking to me today, Elizabeth. It's been great to get to know you a bit better and understand a bit more about your own experiences and how similar we actually are in terms of our stories.
Thank you for talking to me, and it's really quite scary how similar we are and what we have in common. So yeah.
Thank you for listening to the Grief in Common podcast.
This podcast is brought to you by Talk Grief, powered by Winston's Wish, the UK's first children and young people's bereavement charity.
Listen to young people from different backgrounds have honest conversations about their grief and experiences.
You might hear us laugh, cry, and everything in between.
We hope that these conversations give you the confidence to talk about your own grief.
If you're grieving and over the age of 13, this podcast is suitable for you, and we hope it helps you feel less alone.
From teenagers to young adults, students to young professionals, we're all different, but we've all got grief in common. Thank you.